All right, we're going to go over a couple examples of working with some of these word problems. Okay, you guys should be writing this down on your note sheet as I'm writing it down on my paper. Okay, let's look at example number 2. It says Claire bought just enough fencing to enclose either a rectangular garden or a triangular garden as shown. The two gardens have the same perimeter, so that's telling us the perimeter means around, so the distance around this garden here is the same as the distance around this garden here. How many feet of fencing did she buy? Okay, so here's what I would do to solve this problem. First of all, I would label the missing sides in this garden. I see that this side's going to be the same as its opposite side, 3x minus 3. This side over here is going to be the same as its opposite side, so that would be x minus 3. Now, in order to find how much fencing she bought, one thing I do know is that the perimeter of this garden is the same as the perimeter of this garden. So I could set up an equation saying that these two gardens have an equal perimeter. Okay, now how would I find the perimeter of these gardens? Well, I would add up all the sides. So let's go ahead and add up all the sides on this garden. X minus 3 plus 3x minus 3 plus x minus 3 plus 3x minus 3. This is the perimeter for this first garden. Okay, now when I'm thinking about that, I've got an awful lot of x's here. So I have x, 3x, x, 3x. I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 x's. And then I have a bunch of minus 3's. I have 4 minus 3's. That's actually 12 of them. So I have 8x minus 12 there to simplify it. I know that this garden is going to be equal to the perimeter of this garden over here. Now when I find the perimeter of this garden by adding up all the sides, here's what I get. I get that I have 2, 4, 6 x's, and I have 2 negative 1's, so that means I have negative 2. I'm now going to go ahead and solve this equation that I have here. So let's go ahead and bring the 6x over to the other side. That's giving me 2 x's, and I have 2x minus 12 equals, left over on this side I have negative 2. I'm going to go ahead and add the 12 to both sides, and so I get 2x equals 10. Last step, divide by 2, and I get x equals 5. Now, is this telling me that this girl bought 5 feet of fencing? That's not what it's telling me. It's just telling me the value of x is 5. So to figure out how much fencing she bought, let's just plug this number into one of these situations and see the amount of fencing. So if I plug in 5 here, and here, and here, let's see what I get. For this one, I get 2 times 5 is 10, and 10 take away 1 is 9. So that's 9 feet. Over here, I get the same thing. And then over here, I just get 2 times 5, which is 10 feet. So this is the total amount of fencing she bought, which would give me 18 plus 10. So that would be a total of 28 feet of fencing. And if I want to write it as a complete sentence, I could write she bought 28 feet of fencing. This would be my final answer. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the next example, which is on the back of your page. You're going to flip your page over. Okay, example 3, it says determine the length and width of the rectangle described. The length of the rectangle is twice its width. The perimeter of the rectangle is 126 feet. Okay, it did not give us a picture, so let's draw a picture. Let's draw a rectangle. It's telling me the length is twice as long as the width. So this would be the length, this would be the width. Okay, let's go ahead and label the width over here. And it told us this length is 2 times as long as this. So let's call this side 2 times W, because it's twice as long. Okay, now what I can do is I can go ahead and label my other missing sides. And it told me that the perimeter all the way around is 126 feet. So the equation I could set up was that all of these added together makes 126 feet. Okay, now let's go ahead and combine my like terms. So how many W's do I have? I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total. Okay, last I'm going to go ahead and divide by 6 on both sides. And I get W equals 21. Now, I haven't quite answered the question. It says determine the length and width of the rectangle. So I know that the width is 21 feet, okay? But what is the length? Well, what do I have to do to find the length? I knew the length was twice as long, so I could plug it in here, okay? And so I find that the length is 42 feet. These would be your answers. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the very last one on your paper. Okay, so example 4 says the area of a field is 117 centimeters squared. The width of the field is 9 centimeters. What is its length? Okay, let's draw the field. Told us the width is 9. We don't know the length. Let's call this side over here L since we don't know it. Okay. And then it says this area, the inside, not the perimeter, it's area here, is 117 centimeters squared. Okay. So let's think about the formula of how we find the area of a rectangular surface. If we want to think back to how we find the area, some of you might say base times height, others of you might say length times width. Okay. Now, if I know the area, I can actually plug in the value of the area into this equation. So I can plug in 117. If I knew the length, I could plug it in, but I don't know the length, so I'm going to leave it as L. Do I know the width? Yeah, it told me the width. The width was 9 centimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and say times 9. Okay, now how would I solve this problem? Well, what's the inverse or the opposite of multiplying by 9? That would be dividing by 9 on both sides. And so I get that L would equal, let me do this on my calculator really quickly. L would equal 117 divided by 9, which is 13. Okay, so now I know that the length is 13, so I can write the answer as a sentence. The length of the field is 13 what? Well, let's go back. It's 13 centimeters. It's an itty bitty teeny tiny field. All right. There we go. And there's your final answer.